Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is our greatest pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the National and International Conference on Cooperatives and Social Enterprises 2026. This year, the conference is organized under the theme The Next Paradigm Redefining Cooperatives and Enterprises through ESG Integration
เรียนแขกผู้มีเกียรติและผู้เข้าร่วมการประชุมทุกท่านครับกระผมมีความยินดีและเป็นเกียรติอย่างยิ่งที่ได้ต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่การประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติและนานาชาติด้านสหกรณ์และธุรกิจเพื่อสังคมประจำปี 2569 นี้ซึ่งจัดขึ้นภายใต้หัวข้อ The Next Paradigm Redefining Cooperative and Enterprises through ESG Integration ในวันนี้ครับ
On this special occasion, we are highly delighted to welcome a delegation of 20 students, accompanied by two distinguished faculty members, Dr. Claire Lowe and Dr. Amalina Ibrahim from Curtin University, Australia. A very warm welcome to Kasetsat University.
และในโอกาสนี้ถือเป็นเกียรติอย่างยิ่งที่คณะผู้จัดงานได้มีโอกาสต้อนรับคณาจารย์และนักศึกษาจากมหาวิทยาลัยเคอร์ตินประเทศออสเตรเลียนำโดยดร.แคโรและดร.อับบาลินา อับบราฮิมพร้อมด้วยนักศึกษาจำนวน 20 ท่านยินดีต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์ครับ
My name is Ms. Methavi Sangong, a Foreign Relations Officer of the International Affairs Division, Kasetsat University, and I am honored to serve as your English-speaking Master of Ceremony for today's event.
กระผมนายภาคภูมิแก้วมณีนิสิตชั้นปีที่ 4 สาขาวิชาเศรษฐศาสตร์สหกรณ์คณะเศรษฐศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์รับหน้าที่เป็นพิธีกรผู้ดำเนินรายการภาคภาษาไทยในวันนี้ครับ
Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin today's program, may I respectfully invite everyone to stand and join us in observing 30 seconds of silence in remembrance of Her Majesty Queen Surrogate, the Queen Mother, and Her Royal Highness Princess พัทรกิติยาภานเรนทิราเทพพยาวดีกรมหลวงราชสารินีสิริพัฒน์มหาวชิรราชธิดา Let us also take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude and reverence for their boundless grace and lifelong dedication to the Thai people.
ก่อนเข้าสู่วาระการดำเนินการในวันนี้ขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านยืนขึ้นเพื่อร่วมถวายความอาลัยและน้อมรำลึกในพระมหากรุณาธิคุณแด่สมเด็จพระนางเจ้าสิริกิติ์พระบรมราชินีนาถพระบรมราชชนนีพันปีหลวงและสมเด็จพระเจ้าลูกเธอเจ้าฟ้าพัชรกิติยาภานเรนทิราเทพพยาวดีกรมหลวงราชสารินีสิริพัฒน์มหาวชิรราชธิดาเป็นเวลา30 วิครับขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Thank you. Please have a seat. This academic conference is proudly organized by the Department of Cooperatives, Faculty of Economics, Kasetsat University, in collaboration with key institutional partners, namely the Cooperative League of Thailand, the Federation of Savings and Credit Cooperatives of Thailand Limited, the Agricultural Cooperative Federation of Thailand Limited, the Credit Union League of Thailand Limited, the Cooperative Economic Society of Thailand, the Cooperative Economic Institute, and Quadriga Private Equity Co. Limited.
ขอขอบคุณทุกท่านเป็นอย่างสูงครับการประชุมวิชาการในครั้งนี้จัดขึ้นโดยความร่วมมือของภาควิชาสหกรณ์คณะเศรษฐศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์ร่วมกับหน่วยงานภาคีเครือข่ายสำคัญได้แก่สันนิบาตสหกรณ์แห่งประเทศไทยชุมนุมสหกรณ์ออมทรัพย์แห่งประเทศไทยจำกัดชุมนุมสหกรณ์การเกษตรแห่งประเทศไทยจำกัดชุมนุมสหกรณ์เครดิตยูเนียนแห่งประเทศไทยจำกัดสมาคมเศรษฐศาสตร์สหกรณ์แห่งประเทศไทยสถาบันวิชาการด้านสหกรณ์และบริษัท Quadriga Private Equity จำกัดครับ
The primary objective of this conference is to promote and advance the principle of the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs as a guiding framework for cooperative and social enterprise management.
โดยมีวัตถุประสงค์เพื่อส่งเสริมและขับเคลื่อนแนวคิด เป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนหรือ SDG ให้เป็นไปในกรอบแนวทางสำคัญในการบริหารจัดการสหกรณ์และกิจการเพื่อสังคมครับ
Furthermore, it serves as an academic platform for knowledge exchange, the identification of critical success factors, and the strengthening of academic collaborations, which will contribute to the sustainable development of both the economy and society.
ตลอดจนเป็นเวทีการแลกเปลี่ยนการเรียนรู้เพื่อร่วมกันกำหนดปัจจัยแห่งความสำเร็จและเสริมสร้างความร่วมมือทางวิชาการอันจะนำไปสู่การประยุกต์ใช้ในการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจและสังคมอย่างยั่งยืนต่อไปครับ
Please allow me to briefly outline today's schedule. For the morning session, we will begin with the official opening ceremony. We are deeply honored to have Associate Professor Dr. Gulapa Gundilok, Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Kasetsat University, to deliver the opening remarks. Following the opening ceremony, our first keynote address entitled International Law and Cooperatives: How are cooperatives as international as they are local? Will be delivered by Mr. Santosh Kumar, Director of Legislation at the ICA Global Office, Belgium. This will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A session and a networking coffee break until 10:35 a.m.
สำหรับกำหนดการในช่วงเช้าวันนี้มีลำดับกิจกรรมดังต่อไปนี้ครับเวลา 9 นาฬิกาจะเป็นพิธีเปิดอย่างเป็นทางการซึ่งได้รับเกียรติจากรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.กุลภา คุณดิลกท่านคณบดีคณะเศรษฐศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์ให้เกียรติกล่าวเปิดงานและกล่าวต้อนรับผู้เข้าร่วมงานทุกคนครับจากนั้นจะเป็นการบรรยายพิเศษในหัวข้อแรกเรื่อง International Law and Cooperative How are cooperative as international as they are local โดยได้รับเกียรติจากมิสเตอร์ซันโตส คุมมา Director of Legislation จาก ICA Global ประเทศเบลเยียมครับและเปิดโอกาสให้ซักถามเป็นระยะเวลา 15 นาทีก่อนจะพักรับประทานอาหารว่างจนถึงเวลา 10:35 นาทีครับ
After the break, we will resume with our second keynote address on ESG practices of China's supply and marketing cooperatives by Dr. Chuan Qing, Associate Research Fellow from the Research Center of Management Academy of China Cooperatives, which will conclude at 11:25 a.m., followed by a Q&A session.
หลังจากช่วงพักเบรกจะเข้าสู่การบรรยายพิเศษในหัวข้อที่ 2 เรื่อง ESG Practice of China Supply and Marketing Cooperative โดยดร. ชูวันชิง Associate Research Fellow จาก Research Center of Management Academy of China Cooperative จนถึงเวลา 11:25 นาทีครับและต่อด้วยช่วงถามตอบครับ
Before the lunch break, there will be a token of appreciation presentation and a group photo session. Lunch will be served in the designated room indicated on the coupon until 1 p.m.
ก่อนที่จะพักและประทานอาหารกลางวันจะมีพิธีมอบของที่ระลึกและถ่ายภาพหมู่ร่วมกันครับโดยอาหารกลางวันจะจัดเตรียมไว้ตามห้องที่ระบุไว้ในคูปองจนถึงเวลา 13 นาฬิกาครับ
In the afternoon, the conference will continue with parallel sessions in 2 rooms. The English paper presentation will be held in room EC5205. The Thai paper presentation will be held in room EC5303. The conference is expected to conclude at approximately 4 p.m.
และในช่วงบ่ายจะเป็นการแบ่งห้องย่อยเพื่อนำเสนอบทความทางวิชาการจำนวน 2 ห้องนำเสนอบทความภาษาอังกฤษณห้อง EC 5205และห้องนำเสนอบทความเป็นภาษาไทยณห้อง EC 5303โดยการประชุมจะแล้วเสร็จในเวลาประมาณ 16 นาฬิกาครับ
Without further ado, it's our auspicious time. May I respectfully invite Associate Professor Dr. Gulapa Gundilok, Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Kasetsat University, to the stage to officially deliver the opening and welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Dean.
ขณะนี้ได้เวลาอันสมควรแล้วก็ผมขอเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.กุลภา คุณดิลกท่านคณบดีคณะเศรษฐศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์ให้เกียรติขึ้นบนเวทีเพื่อกล่าวเปิดการประชุมและกล่าวต้อนรับอย่างเป็นทางการขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Distinguished keynote speakers, colleagues, and all participants. Good morning. On behalf of the Faculty of Economics, Kasetsat University, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 5th National and International Conference on Cooperatives and Social Enterprises 2026, hosted by the Department of Cooperatives, Faculty of Economics. Under the theme, The Next Paradigm, Redefining Cooperatives Enterprises through ESG Integration. First, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished keynote speakers, Mr. Santosh Kumar, Director of Legislation at the Global Office of the International Cooperative Alliance, and Dr. Su Wen-King, Associate Research Fellow at the Research Center of MACC. We are truly honored to have you with us and greatly appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge and experience, and also welcome all distinguished guests, presenters, and all participants. We are delighted to have you here at Kasetsart University and hope you will enjoy both productive conference and a pleasant stay in Bangkok. This conference comes at an important time. Around the world, cooperatives and social enterprises are facing new challenges, while also creating new opportunities for sustainable development. Today, ESG is more than a corporate concept. It is an important approach that helps organizations strengthen resilience, improve accountability, and create long-term value for society. Many successful organizations, such as the Mondragon Corporation in Spain, Co-op Switzerland, Ara Foods in Denmark, and the JA Group in Japan, have demonstrated that cooperative values and sustainable business practices can successfully go hand in hand. Their experiences provide valuable lessons for all of us. Kasetsart University is proud to support international academic cooperation and to provide a platform where scholars, practitioners, and policymakers can exchange ideas, build partnerships, and contribute to sustainable development through research and innovation. I sincerely thank our keynote speakers, sponsors, presenters, or participants, and the organizing committee of Department of Cooperative for making this conference possible. I wish you all a successful conference filled with meaningful discussions, valuable knowledge, and lasting professional connections. It is now my great honor to declare the 5th National and International Conference on Cooperatives and Social Enterprises 2026 officially open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Gulapa Kundilok, for your inspiring opening remarks and for highlighting the profound purpose and benefits of today's conference. Thank you.
ขอขอบพระคุณรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.กุลภา กุณิหลกท่านคณบดีคณะเศรษฐศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเกษตรศาสตร์เป็นอย่างสูงที่ได้ให้เกียรติกล่าวเปิดงานรวมถึงเน้นย้ำถึงวัตถุประสงค์และประโยชน์ของการประชุมวิชาการในวันนี้ขอขอบพระคุณครับ
Moving forward, we are about to commence our first keynote session. Today, we are immensely privileged to have an esteemed international expert joining us to share insights on the legal dimensions of cooperative globally.
ลำดับถัดไปจะเข้าสู่ช่วงการบรรยายพิเศษจากวิทยากรผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิระดับสากลซึ่งจะมาถ่ายทอดความรู้ทางด้านกฎหมายสหกรณ์ระดับนานาชาติในวันนี้ครับ
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Santosh Kumar, Director of Legislation, ICA Global Office, Belgium. He provides comparative analysis of cooperative laws, legal services, and policy advocacy to strengthen the cooperative sector worldwide. Mr. Kumar has also published and co-authored numerous works on cooperative law, governance, and policy, with a particular focus on the Asia-Pacific region.
มิสเตอร์ซันโตสคุมมา Director of Legislation จาก ICA Global Office ประเทศเบลเยียม ผู้ให้คำปรึกษาด้านกฎหมายและสนับสนุนการกำหนดนโยบายเพื่อเสริมสร้างความเข้มแข็งของภาคสหกรณ์ในระดับโลก นอกจากนี้ท่านยังเป็นผู้เขียนและผู้ร่วมเขียนผลงานวิชาการด้านกฎหมายสหกรณ์การกำกับดูแลและนโยบายสหกรณ์มากมายโดยมุ่งเน้นที่ภูมิภาคเอเชียและแปซิฟิกครับขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Are you able to hear me well? Are you able to hear me well? Okay, great. Thank you. Well, firstly, I am immensely honored to be here back in Bangkok. The last time I was here was in 2017. And I really thank the Kasetsart University and the Cooperative Movement of Thailand to have invited me. I now live in Belgium, and I used to live in New Delhi till I was 33 years of age. And it's my immense honor, as I said, to be invited to this very important university globally. I'll tell you why in a moment, but before that, please allow me to extend my thanks to Madam Dean, the professors and associate professors present here, Dr. Kumkit for having invited me on behalf of our university, and the distinguished students who are here. Without really exaggerating, and based on my experience of serving the International Cooperative Alliance for the last 16 years, I'd like to say that if you really want to change the world, cooperatives is a tangible vehicle to do that. Today, I will try to present some ideas on law and cooperatives, international law and cooperatives, and as we know, international law is being questioned, is being challenged at several fora, and the premise of my presentation is that international law doesn't necessarily need to take place or constructed in Geneva or in New York. I'm of course referring to the international community represented by the United Nations. Of course, I have the most immense respect for the instrument of United Nations. However, cooperatives at the community level, at the village level, at the city levels are as powerful, especially on the issue of ESG, which is maybe a rather contemporary form of articulation of what communities have always done, which is to take care of the community, the sustainable development of their community. I'll also refer to that in a bit. Allow me to extend warm greetings from the president of the International Cooperative Alliance, Dr. Ariel Guarco, who is Argentinian. He spent his life in an electric cooperative. You might be interested to know that, let's say, the United States, 50%, at least 50% of the electricity in the United States come from cooperatives. And also the Director General of ICA, Mr. Jeroen Douglas, who is one of the architects of what we today know as the Fair Trade label. So he spent 30 years of his career in ensuring that supply chains remain as fair as is possible. And just to correct the MCs, I'm really not an expert. I am very proud to be a perennial student of cooperatives because it's really a fascinating sector. And I really urge the students who are here to give it a serious thought, not just in terms of your careers, but also in terms of viewing the world through the cooperative lens. Now you see this logo here, right? This is the logo of the Faculty of Economics of Kasetsart. I was thrilled to see this because I was wondering what is the logo that was developed by some cooperators in the United States in 1921 doing in this hall that we're all gathered in for this conference. This actually is a symbol, one of the most recognizable symbols of cooperatives around the world, but mostly in the Western Hemisphere, the Twin Pines. And this was proposed by cooperators of the United States when they were looking to identify themselves with a symbol, with a logo. And they chose the Twin Pines because of their resilience, their enduring nature, and their sustainable character as trees. Of course, Thailand does not have pine trees, unless my information is wrong, right? I mean, correct, sorry. So anyway, it's really an international movement. We always associate cooperatives with local economies, grassroots, but the power of cooperation is indeed on how they connect internationally, and we need to benefit, we in the sense the community, the global community, needs to benefit from this international character of cooperatives. I will try not to bore you. I've been given 50 minutes, and I will try my best not to bore you, but there will be moments where you will feel like, that the lecture is going in some direction. But to my advantage, I think this is a room full of economists, right? Are there any lawyers in the room? So I can really say what I want and not be checked. But my professor in international law, international economic law, used to tell us that a lawyer who does not have knowledge of economics is a public enemy. So I hope to learn as much as I hope to share today, and which is why I'm really looking forward to other interventions, particularly a colleague from the All China Federation of Supply and Marketing Cooperatives. Now, I also heard that cooperatives are usually associated with antiquated institutions, very old institutions, and they usually have a bad name, and this is a global phenomenon. But again, I think one has to look into the history of the cooperative movement, and I urge the educators here to seriously consider teaching about the global history of the cooperative movement, how it started, where it started, and how it spread. Because despite the challenges or the perils of colonialism, despite the economic depression of the early 20th century, despite the world wars, and all the other political, social, and economic upheavals that the world has seen and continues to see, cooperatives somehow have remained resilient. And I think the essence of ESG is resilience of the community, of the enterprise, and of course of our planet. So let me maybe begin with what a cooperative is, according to the International Cooperative Alliance's definition. And to sort of really say it in simple words, the International Cooperative Alliance is the custodian of the Statement on the Cooperative Identity. So it is, of course, an association of cooperatives globally, but its main role is to protect the definition, a statement of values, and 7 principles on which the cooperative enterprise model is based. These are not aspirational principles that we want to do this, we wish we can do this, but this is actually a blueprint on which every cooperative enterprise around the world is supposed to be based, legally speaking. A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and a democratically managed enterprise. So it starts with an association, it ends with an enterprise, therefore conveying the dual nature of this business entity, if I put it rather crudely. Now, there have been several experiments on, let's say, formal cooperation in the 18th century, in the 19th century, in different parts of the world. I'm, of course, not talking about the traditional practices of cooperation that we see in societies going back centuries, but I'm talking about more formalized enterprise ideas that were being experimented in the 18th and the 19th century. One of the successful cooperative enterprise experiments took place in a place called Rochdale in Manchester in England. And actually the mayor of Manchester, Greater Manchester, is now, I believe, already or going to be the Prime Minister of the UK. Andy Burnham basically was the mayor of a constituency that houses even today what we usually attribute as the first consumer cooperative, modern consumer cooperative of the world. The story goes like this. In 1842, 1843, at the height of the Industrial Revolution in the UK, mills, mechanized mills were brought to Manchester. Manchester being one of the factories of the world, a lot of workers, and even today, if you go to Manchester, there is a sentiment of workers first or people's first, very much. And because of the machines, a lot of workers lost their jobs. And this was around Christmas time, and they could not raise enough money for their families to have a good Christmas dinner in 1842, 1843. And it was also a time when there was no minimum age for a worker. As an industrialist, you could easily hire 5-year-olds to start working in your factories for 24 hours a day. There was no law stopping you from doing that, except, of course, the moral code. So you had kids earning money at the age of 7, or spending it in drinking and smoking at 7 years old. And the life expectancy, I'm sure that you know, it was not as good as it is today. Anyway, so we find the story a situation where the workers of Rochdale, Manchester, did not have enough money to buy a good Christmas dinner. Their wives and sisters insisted, because it was mostly men who were working in factories at that time, insisted that the men of Rochdale try saving money and without spending on cigarettes and whatever, and save the money, and thereafter ensure that the next Christmas is a bit better than what it was in 1843. So the workers started saving money, thrift as a habit, to save money. And whilst they were saving money, they were also experimenting with the cooperative idea. They realized that they were spending more on some basic goods like flour, sugar, milk, candles, etc. So in the process of ensuring that their common needs are met through a cooperative system, they established the first cooperative store. It was called the Rochdale Society of Equitable Pioneers. And the store exists now as a museum, but they were able to establish a store to take care of their basic needs. The store slowly grew over time. They were, of course, able to have many happy Christmases afterwards, but the store grew into something phenomenal. It grew into not just the cooperative movement, but also a pioneering retail cooperative idea. So the supermarkets you see in Europe especially are dominated by cooperatives. If you ever visit any city in Europe, so we just heard the Madam Dean talk about cooperatives in Switzerland. Now, the retail cooperatives in Switzerland are dominated by 2 cooperative stores that, of course, go back to the grassroots. They are not fueled by capital that no one knows where it comes from. There are, of course, like we have systems today, capitalistic systems, that take money from sources that we are unable to sort of know. There might be money coming from arms trade or drugs trade. We don't know. But here, in the cooperative model, at least in theory, it comes from the people and is used to meet the needs of the people. So this movement that started with a few workers who believed in themselves and whose families urged them to save money every day led to a pioneering idea of not just cooperatives but also retail stores around the world. Okay, let's maybe go to the presentation. Who are we? I already explained you that the role of the ICA, but we will go a bit more in detail, but allow me to very quickly give you a bird's eye view of where we operate and what we do. Legally speaking, ICA is a non-governmental organization. It's a special non-governmental organization. It's member-based, but it also has a role to protect the identity statement, as I mentioned, the definition, values, and principles. If you've heard of the Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross, that institution is also a custodian. It is a custodian of international humanitarian principles, and those principles are translated into international law through Geneva Conventions, which is very much in conversation globally since especially the last 3 or 4 years. And similarly, similar to the Red Cross, the ICA is the custodian of the values and principles, the cooperative principles. And the job that my department, the legal office of the ICA does is to ensure that the principles are translated into legislation so that all cooperatives around the world have a minimum similar standard. So at the moment, the ICA represents 325 cooperative organizations, including the Cooperative League of Thailand, CLT. It is estimated that there are 3 million cooperative enterprises around the world, and cooperatives provide 280 million direct and indirect jobs. We undertook a survey in 2011 to estimate the, let's say, the economic reality of just the top 300 cooperatives. There are 3 million in the world, right? Just the top 300. And the result was astounding. The top 300 contribute to 2.6 trillion US dollars, which at that time was greater than the GDP of France. So usually when people think about cooperatives, they think they're old, antiquated enterprise models, small, but they are a massive economic reality, which is not led by big capital, but really contributed by people at the grassroots. A few, let's say, glimpses from the pages of history of the ICA. It was in 1895 that the ICA was constituted in the month of August by the coming together of a few movements at the time. As I mentioned, there were several experiments of cooperative enterprises going around at that time, mostly in Western Europe, but not necessarily entirely. So the retail cooperative idea, as I mentioned, came from the UK. The financial cooperative idea came from Germany. The worker cooperative idea came from France. And such cultures and traditions came together to form the International Cooperative Alliance. The first International Day of Cooperatives was celebrated in 1923. The United Nations formally adopted the first Saturday of July as the UN International Day of Cooperatives in 1995. 1995 is an important milestone. I'll come to that. So ICA became the first, one of the first 3 organizations to receive what is called the consultative status with the United Nations, ECOSOC. Just like we have the Security Council, we used to have the Trusteeship Council. It still exists only in name. But there is also the Economic and Social Council, perhaps very important, the most important arm of the United Nations today. And ICA cooperators and cooperatives were given that honor of being the first among the first 3 to receive this consultative status. The other 2 were trade unions and the International Chamber of Commerce. International Chamber of Commerce, which is now a very important organization. It resolves disputes through arbitration, big trade disputes through arbitration, very powerful organization. Then I mentioned cooperative principles. So they have been chiseled since 1844 to 1995. But this has happened through a review every 30 years. First took place in 1937, the Congress of the ICA, bringing together movements from around the world and then discussing what the Rochdale pioneers started. How can we make it more global? In 1937, there was a first review. 1966, which is a year which is also very important in international law because 2 very important legally binding conventions were adopted in 1966-67. These are the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Very, very important legally binding international conventions on things like freedom of association, which is being challenged, which will be, I think, given the nature of governments today, will be challenged. But we as citizens can rely on these important international agreements that have been reached, and our governments, our countries have accepted this. Then in 1992, or well, 1972 the international community's attention moved to sustainable development. 1992 was Rio Plus 20, very important conference that took place to further articulate what sustainable development actually means. So at that time, the private sector, the public sector, and also cooperatives were shifting their attention to articulating what sustainable development could mean for business. So the ICA also undertook a massive survey. At that time, there were 700 million cooperators around the world. Today, we say there are 1 billion cooperators in the world. They undertook a massive survey in the late 1980s and early 90s to finally conclude with a statement with the definition, values, and principles on how cooperative enterprises must be organized. Now, this statement, or the principles rather, were included within the realm of international law in 2002. I'm sure you've heard of voluntary sustainability standards, right? ESG, there are mandatory sustainability standards and there are voluntary sustainability standards. The principles of cooperatives, of which the ICA is custodian, is somewhere between the voluntary sustainability standards and mandatory. I would say, from the legal office's point of view, they are mandatory sustainability standards because irrespective of the political, economic, and cultural character of a state, we find cooperative legislation present in every state, meaning every country, and these cooperative legislations around the world do refer to cooperative principles. And this also has an important implication on international law. I'll come to that. But in 2002, the International Labour Organization, a very important tripartite platform which allows the workers through trade unions, enterprises through the enterprise group, and governments to dialogue and create law. The most recent law that the International Labour Organization has created only last month is a convention, a legally binding convention on platform economy. You know, the Ubers and Airbnbs of the world have been notorious, much to their advantage, in being under-regulated or not regulated in majority of the countries. Is the worker an entrepreneur? Is the worker a partner or an employee? Courts around the world were exploring this question. Some courts said that these workers who are working, who are driving for 20 hours a day, who are delivering in rain, in heat, are actually employees, and the enterprises have to take care of their employees. However, some courts said, no, this is the gig economy, right? So while going back from work to home, I pick up somebody on the way, and I drop them and I earn an extra buck. So the international community, through this ILO tripartite dialogue platform, met for several years, and finally we have a convention that regulates now platform economy. Of course, our countries have to formally ratify that, but I don't see any challenges in majority of the countries ratifying that. But anyway, going back to the ILO, very important institution that was started actually when the League of Nations was created. How many of the students here know the League of Nations? So League of Nations, thank you, is the predecessor to the United Nations. It failed utterly, but the tripartite dialogue mechanism survived because of its own merits. So this ILO creates laws, it creates conventions, recommendations, and protocols, and within recommendations exists an instrument, a legal instrument dedicated to cooperatives. So the principles articulated by 700 million cooperators from villages, from cities, got into the realm of international law. Then in 2008, something disastrous happened in New York on Wall Street. The Lehman Brothers Bank fell. No one expected that. And there was a great economic recession, very mildly put, but it was a catastrophe in the financial world in 2008. I come from the class of 2008. I graduated university in 2008. And I know how difficult it was for myself and my colleagues to find jobs. I was, quite clear that I was not going to make a lot of money in the initial years. I just wanted to travel the world. That was my objective. But my friends, my peers in law school who wanted to work for big law found themselves jobless. because of this financial crisis that took place 10,000 kilometers away from New Delhi, where I was. At that time, the ILO and the United Nations somehow undertook a survey on the resilience of financial cooperatives and found that financial cooperatives were far more resilient than your traditional private sector banks. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to target the private sector at all. I'm just trying to find, including in your minds, space for the cooperative enterprise model as an alternative. So 2008, 2009, ILO, UN undertake a study. They prove that cooperative financial institutions like credit unions, cooperative banks are far more resilient than your traditional private sector banks. And the United Nations suddenly has this brilliant idea to dedicate a year to cooperatives. So 2012 was declared as the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives, thus putting cooperatives at the center of policy discussions at the national level, at the international level. 2016, something even more wonderful happens. The very idea and practice of organizing shared interests through cooperatives gets inscribed in the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list, representative list. Now, how many of you know intangible cultural heritage? Thank you. It's a very interesting a piece of recognition that is often criticized that it is only the Western world that sort of benefits from it. But it actually is a list. There are different lists needing urgent safeguarding, representative list, and there are several lists. But what UNESCO does, UNESCO is the education and scientific organization of the UN. What it does is it recognizes practices from communities and countries that are very local, but they require recognition, acknowledgement, and safeguarding at the international level. From Thailand, there are two that I remember. One is the Thai massage, and the second is Tom Yum soup. Irrespective of where you come from, I mean, I will certainly be very disappointed and disheartened if we don't have Tom Yum soup tomorrow. So it is our responsibility, according to international law, as the international community, to safeguard the Tom Yum soup or the traditions of the Tom Yum soup and not let it get commodified. Because if you by commodification, I mean that there are certain companies of the world that very proudly say that water should be commodified, that water should not be free. Drinking water should not be free. We have to bottle it. We have to make sure that the human race, whenever it drinks water, it has to pay. So we have to avoid commodification. And one of the ways to avoiding commodification is indeed giving the power to the people through the enterprise model of cooperatives. I will try to say how, but in 2016, the very idea of organizing interest into cooperatives was inscribed in the same list. So Tom Yum soup is similar to the cooperative idea. That's how important it is what the UNESCO said in 2016. And in 2025, the second International Year of Cooperatives was celebrated. And in 2025, in November, the United Nations General Assembly said, look, let's do this every 10 years. Because it's important that generations after generations need to acknowledge or at least know that the cooperative enterprise model is an alternative or is an option, not an alternative, is an option. So when you graduate, you have the public sector, you have the private sector or becoming entrepreneurs yourselves, or to create, to become cooperative entrepreneurs. So, well, going back to my organization, it was started in London in 1895, where it had its global secretariat until 1982. Then we moved to Geneva, and in 2013 we moved to Brussels in Belgium because of our, let's say, partnership with the European Union. The other interesting thing about the cooperative movement is that in the 1920s, the cooperatives of that time decided that the rainbow flag should be a symbol of expressing cooperation. And this was also the flag used by the labor movement in the United States. But essentially what it conveyed was diversity, that there are diverse people in the world. And diverse people within a room, and it's important that that diversity becomes a symbol of an enterprise movement. So nothing which comes from outside, nothing that the state tells you that you have to take, this is sustainable development and please do these things to ensuring that your enterprise is contributing to sustainable development, but instead integrating sustainable development or elements such as diversity within the DNA of the enterprise itself. So this is like the first rules of the ICA in 1895. There were three main objectives. One is to introduce or make known the cooperators of the world, who is doing what kind of experiment on cooperatives in which part of the world. Second, to elucidate through international discussion, discourse, and dialectic mechanisms what the true cooperative principles are, which could be applied to cooperatives in various distinct contexts from North Korea to United States. And third was to establish commercial relations among cooperatives. Imagine a supply chain that is totally cooperative, like internationally speaking, like cooperatives from as they say, farm to fork, cradle to grave, everything is a cooperative. Of course, this might sound fantastical, but it's been done. It's been done before, and there are umpteen number of examples. Let me, for a second, break this presentation and ask you if you know of this brand called Associated Press, or AP. Do you know of this brand, AP, Associated Press? If you read a newspaper, you will see that agency. This is a cooperative in the United States of news agencies, and they defend or they withstand any regulation, excessive regulation which challenges freedom of expression, so that news remains fair, news remains as free as possible. Then Magnum Photos. Any photographers in the house? Magnum Photos is a very important cooperative also, with the who's who of the photography world in the 1950s. They thought that we need to have our own photography agency, and very important photographers from the 1940s and 50s to secure their freedom of expression created Magnum Photos. Look it up after this, or maybe even during my presentation. Do not look at your phones when Dr. Zhu is speaking. Magnum Photos, very important global entity, also a cooperative. Now, I have a theory, since we are very close to the finals of the Football World Cup, and my country, India, does not, unfortunately, has never qualified for the Football World Cup, despite 1.4 billion people. The last we came close was, I think, in 1960 or 64 Olympics, we came fourth, and after that, nothing. But my theory is that people say football is a beautiful game, the beautiful game, right? I believe it is beautiful because several clubs, very famous clubs of the world, be it Barcelona or Liverpool, they all started as fan-owned cooperatives. And that's the reason why you see the fans being so attached to their club, because historically, in their families, they have seen their elders being so connected to the club. Not just that, it's not just the fandom, but also in order to play professionally, you need professional equipment, professional infrastructure, sport infrastructure, which is accessible. You don't need miracles to create, if you want to create a superstar in any sport, at least in my country, you need a miracle, or it's one in 10 million that you will find a genius. Why? Because it is so difficult to access a good football pitch in India, and if you want to access it, you need to have money in your pocket. But the football clubs and also the rugby clubs in Ireland, for example, where rugby is popular. I know there are Australians in the room, but I am not sure how rugby clubs were started in Australia, but in Ireland for sure. Even today, they are fan-owned cooperatives. So the fan feels co-ownership of the club. Then I already spoke about the consumer stores of Switzerland. But have you used have you transferred money internationally, or if you transfer money not through your recent apps, but traditionally there is a system called SWIFT. Do you know about SWIFT transfer system? Also a cooperative registered in Belgium. Of course, the members are all the banks of the world. But I would qualify that as a genuine cooperative because the solution that SWIFT came out with eases our lives. If the SWIFT messaging service did not exist, we would have paid different rates for transferring money to different parts of the world. But SWIFT, as a cooperative, brought together these main stakeholders, found a solution that really helped the international community to transfer money rather easily. And, well, I will make a small reference to the ongoing war in Gaza. On October 7th, 2023, when the first attacks happened in Israel, they happened in a kibbutz. And kibbutz is legally registered as a cooperative. It is a place where people live together, cook together, take care of each other's children, and it's a community that coexists in the truest form. So it was a kibbutz. When Israel attacked Gaza, they attacked the housing cooperatives there. So what I'm trying to convey, without making any political statement here, is that cooperatives are at the front lines, not just of societies, but also these kind of upheavals. So that's why I call myself a student of cooperation, because there is so much to discover. It's so much to excavate and find out, oh, this is a cooperative, or they have a root in the cooperative movement. So, well, going back to the ICA, we have a global office where I have the honor of working. We have 4 regional offices. For the Asia Pacific, it is in New Delhi. And there is also a business office in Malaysia. For the Americas, it is in San Jose in Costa Rica. For Europe, it's in Brussels, in Belgium. And for Africa, the regional office is in Nairobi. And there are 8 sectors that we work with, but there are sectoral organizations, lobbying industry bodies at the international level. So we work on agricultural sector, fisheries, industry and services, health cooperatives, retail, housing, banking, and insurance. These are the 8 sectoral organizations that ICA is organized in. And there are 5 committees, thematic committees, law, which I staff. So basically, we advise our member organizations on matters related to cooperative law. There is a cooperative research committee. In fact, one of our participants here is the winner of the Cooperative Research Committee's European Conference last year in 2025. A youth committee, gender equality and development. And as I said, we offer legislation support. We offer a platform for people from around the world to gather and discuss cooperation. But a very interesting service that we provide is the .coop domain. So if you look at, you have .com, you have .co, but having a .coop domain, of which the cooperative movement is the owner, provides a digital identity to cooperatives. So in case in the future you ever think about creating a cooperative, or if you're part of a cooperative today, do consider getting a .coop domain. So let's go back to 1844. I have 11 minutes, so I will try to conclude rapidly. So the reason why we attribute the invention of the cooperative idea in Rochdale, if you still remember that story, is because one of the first things they did, apart from saving money, was to put down a set of rules to ensure that there is predictability on how a member interacts with another member and how a member interacts with the cooperative. So in cooperatives, there are no shares. I mean, of course, there are shares, but there are no shareholders. They are members, indicating that you are co-owner of the enterprise and not just a shareholder. And the economic return is not the only benefit that you seek from your enterprise. And in this slide, you see how the principles have evolved from 1844 to 1995. And in a nutshell, there are two principles that have remained unchanged in their totality. And that, I believe, is the irreducible core of any cooperative anywhere in the world, and this is my view. One is democratic control. So irrespective of how many shares you own of a cooperative, you shall always have one vote. Unlike in a shareholding company where your voting percentage depends on the number of shares you have. And the second is education. From 1844 till today, we have education integrated in the enterprise, the DNA of the enterprise. Now, why is that? We're talking about enterprises, cooperative enterprises that comprise persons with limited means, farmers, fishers, workers, traditionally, but now we have, cooperatives are used by city dwellers as well, and more so. But we are talking about a group of people of limited means, and they are competing in the market. So in order to compete, you need to train your staff, your members, your managers on a continuing basis, which is why it's so important for cooperatives to have an education fund, to contribute to a national education fund, which the fund remains autonomous, under the control of the cooperative movement, and more often than not, this contribution is tax deductible in laws. Now, in the context of today's lecture, today's theme, the seventh principle is most relevant, concern for community, which was articulated in 1995. And the genius of this principle is that the principle reads, cooperatives work towards the sustainable development of their communities through policies approved by their members. So what it does, it marries democracy with sustainable development. At the moment, be it the ESG concept, be it sustainable development goals, all are coming more or less top-down. But here is a mechanism, a principle that ought to be integrated in legislation, which allows members at the grassroots to inform and work towards what sustainable development for their community means. Yeah? So think about it. As I said, the UNESCO had recognized the cooperative idea as intangible cultural heritage. What does it mean? Firstly, there are so many different terms for cooperatives around the world. Yeah? And our identity is the sum of all our experiences. There are several experiences of cooperation around the world, and true cooperative identity will only be a sum of all the experiences. What are these experiences? UNESCO recognized cooperatives as intangible cultural heritage, the financial cooperative model, based on the Raiffeisen idea, which was in the early 19th century in Germany. But we go back a few centuries, and we go to East Africa, and we see that the practice of saving money is part of the culture. You meet, I have a colleague from Kenya, and he says, when we get our salaries in schools, in our offices, and when we were in school, when we used to get pocket money, whatever little, our natural instinct is to save together and to allow our friend, our peer, to take loans when they want to. So this culture, recognized by UNESCO based on a German application, actually has its evidence in East Africa. In Austria, Belgium, Germany, Italy, in Western, let's say, advanced economy of Central and Western Europe, there is a tradition of organizing irrigation systems, and they are legally registered as cooperatives. This also has been recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage. And we see the same thing in the communities of several Arabic-speaking countries. One of the examples is Al-Aflaj, which is a traditional irrigation system in the UAE, which is also based on cooperation. And sometimes they're registered as cooperatives, and sometimes they're just informal. But just to show that there are cultures of cooperation that exists in the world, not just in the formalistic legal sense, but in our cultural heritage. And to capitalize on that, we launched this website, this program called culturalheritage.coop, again benefiting from the UNESCO's inscription, which is safeguarded by international law through a convention, UNESCO Convention on Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage, 2003. And here we are plotting, if you see on the right-hand side the pins on the map, plotting the various experiments and ideas and museums that there exist of cooperation. And this year, we will plot several intangible cultures of cooperation that exist in communities around the world, like how informally people have been collaborating, cooperating, and sort of bring that to the fore. Now, in this slide, there's just one interesting thing, that there exists a country whose entire basis was cooperatives. The Cooperative Republic of Guyana. It was a country that, it is a country that has people of African descent, people of Indian descent, and indigenous peoples, and they came together to purchase plantation land from the erstwhile colonizers, and they created cooperatives to purchase those lands and become owners of that. And the whole country is based on this idea that cooperatives should be the way of life. And their constitution mentions cooperatives 23 times. And they're very, very evolved, let's say, legal text. They have been recently, well, how can I say this? Not blessed, but they have the oil curse now. As you know, Guyana has discovered large oil reserves next to them. So they are really contemplating on how to marry the idea of cooperatives to ensuring that people don't go berserk with the amount of money that's going to come their way, hopefully. Well, we will share this presentation with you to just tell you how ICA has dealt with the idea of cooperative law. But what's important is that from the late 1800s, there was one important message that ICA has passed to the lawmaker, that laws should not interfere with the cooperative way. So laws should not be excessive at the local level, at the national level, that sort of restrict cooperators from doing what they're supposed to do in a cooperative way. And it's the job of the ICA to ensure that the international law at least is very clear on the cooperative way. And that is explained in the 7 principles that I've been referring to. Well, I've spoken about all of this already. I've spoken about the United Nations. There are several, let's say, international institutions that formally recognize that a way to development is through cooperatives, and they have a legal mandate to protecting that. International Labour Organization being one, but also the UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Now, this is, I think, the most important slide of my presentation. We've spoken about principles. We've spoken about how the principles are implemented or articulated at the local level in bylaws. There is the International Cooperative Alliance that is a custodian of the principles, and so on. But how is this relevant to law? If you look at the Statute of the International Court of Justice, it provides on what the sources of laws should be, what the court looks at when it determines whether a set of rules is a source of law or not. And that is Article 38, very important for international lawyers. And here, the sources of law include international custom as evidence of a general practice accepted as law, which is Article 38(1)(b), and then the general principles of law recognized by civilized nations, 38(1)(c). Now, on both these counts, we see that the cooperative principles, initiated in 1844, included in legislation from the late 19th century, now, as I said, mentioned in all legislations around the world, are somehow indicative of how these principles, developed by farmers and fishers and workers at the grassroots and articulated at the ICA, are becoming a source of international law. So this here is a clear case of how a law, an international law, can be made by people directly, through, of course, their enterprises. Well, some of the issues concerning cooperative law, in case you want to write a thesis or a paper on an article, these have been identified as matters important for cooperative law around the world. Laws should recognize cooperatives, first things first. It should not be embedded in a company law or an association law. There should be a cooperative legislation. A cooperative character should be very clear in law. There are several tax exemptions. These are not benefits, but these are exemptions that are justified in law. But I think I will not go into all of that right now, and I'll share the presentation with the organizers so that you can, whoever is interested can go into details about how cooperative law is operating at the national level in several countries. Maybe I take just one more minute to conclude with this slide. It's my favorite, let's say, inspiration of cooperatives. In the Philippines, the cooperative legislation recognizes something called laboratory cooperatives to indicate that the experiment is still going on. And these laboratory cooperatives allow minors who otherwise cannot enter into, let's say, entrepreneurship or any type of contract, are permitted to save money together at the school level from the ages of 6 and 7. And they, by the age of, when they graduate from school, they already are kind of trained on financial literacy, but they're also trained on cooperative principles and how you can organize a cooperative enterprise, lead a cooperative enterprise, and so on. So the law recognizes the so-called laboratory cooperatives. These laboratory cooperatives allow students to save from a young age. This is then provided guardianship by the local credit cooperative or credit union, and thus, through legislation, through cooperatives, through schools rather, the Philippines has been able to create generations of cooperators who truly understand how it happens, how cooperation happens in practice. So it's really a marvelous case study on how youth are getting equipped with financial literacy, on leadership, on democracy, and things like that. So I'll conclude with that. There were several other things I wanted to say, but I think I got a bit carried away with all the stories that I had to share with you. I felt the need to share with you. I thank you very much again for the opportunity, and hope to stay in touch with some of you at least. Kapun Kap.
We will now open the floor for the Q&A session.
ถัดไปจะเข้าสู่ช่วงถามตอบสำหรับผู้มีข้อซักถามครับ
So as a student studying and working in marketing and social media, your mentioning of platform economies really piqued my interest. It's a highly discussed topic within my sector, both at work and at uni. But with recent development of legally binding convention that you mentioned earlier to discuss how to approach issues of platform economy, how do you see such a framework being implemented and enforced across borderless digital spaces that isn't necessarily governed by a particular union or particular country? Do you think that it would be on a nation-by-nation adoption, which would be more domestic regulation, or is there potential for more coordinated transnational enforcement mechanisms, especially in the context of platform cooperatives? And also with platform cooperatives or digital cooperatives, are there any current case studies that you've seen now? Because I don't know much about cooperatives, but I'd love to learn more.
That's a fantastic question. Thank you very much. First, legally, the answer would be that indeed, domestically. And the convention also leaves a lot to be covered by domestic legislation. It sets a set of principles on which domestic legislation should be based. However, again, like going a bit more deeper on how this will be enforced, wherever the enterprise's registered office is where it will be enforced. So domestic legislation again. But the International Convention does provide a framework on what should be included, what is the minimum inclusion in the domestic legislation. But your question, I think, what really impresses me about your question is about the enforcement at the international level. How can that take place? I can't speak about the private sector, but for cooperatives, it can be done at the enterprise level. If there is an international platform cooperative, then the bylaws of that platform cooperative can not only include the minimum standard that has been set by international law, the convention in this case, but also by the members of that international cooperative itself. So you can, what I think would be ideal is that minimum threshold is based on the ILO convention, but the cooperative can go many notches up and ensure that, that anyone who's a member of that cooperative will be bound by not just the minimum standard set by the international community, but a higher standard that cooperatives can set for themselves. The platform cooperatives movement is a growing one. In fact, if you're here in July in Thailand, in Bangkok, then you can participate in a very important conference. This time it's themed on AI without bosses or something like that. But the conference is organized by the Platform Cooperatives Consortium. And it used to be in the New School in New York. You can see, I think it's called platform.coop. You can check that out. Very good, inspiring work that they're doing. And there are several examples of platform cooperatives that have come up, that have struggled. But with this international convention, I am sure that they will proliferate now. So yeah, I invite you to check out platform.coop, and I'm sure you will get several ideas to also contribute to that movement somehow. There used to be something called Fairbnb, like Airbnb. That worked very well, but failed because of capital issues. But there are Give.it. Give.it is the newest kid on the block from Spain. It's a delivery app where the workers, also sometimes workers want to be employees, self-employed. They don't want to be employees, which is also okay. But these kind of nuances have to be taken into consideration by legislation at the domestic level. And that is being articulated now through these cases. But great question. Thank you very much for that.
Building on your point about cooperative identity in law, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, you've argued that company law tends to erase what makes cooperatives distinct. Do you see the same risk with standardized ESG frameworks, that pushing cooperatives to adopt them could end up reshaping cooperative governance to look more like a corporation, just to score well on ESG metrics?
Again, great question. Really, really good question. I'm not an expert on ESG, so I can't take what I'm saying as an opinion. I came across, so in 2014, India adopted the corporate social responsibility law. And several legal experts said, we don't need a law to tell companies that they have to be socially responsible. It should be natural, right? Otherwise, what happens, this is the minimum standard again. And we exploit to the maximum. There are people who are getting paid millions of dollars a year to ensuring that just the bare minimum is met, and the rest you exploit as much as you can. So in the same sense, but ESG is slightly different. It is really a threshold that companies, now there is no choice left, I believe, both on environment and governance to make things more equitable. So I don't think it is going to alter the cooperative nature, but and it does provide an opportunity for cooperatives to evidence that the DNA of the enterprise model already meets ESG, and this is an evidence language that everybody is speaking right now, right? So cooperatives can now finally, perhaps, express what they have been doing in a language that is understandable for corporations and the institutions, the political institutions working to advance the corporate model. So I think it's not going to necessarily alter the cooperative nature, but indeed, on the one hand, it provides an opportunity, but on the other hand, laws have to be more, let's say, conducive and to adequately translate the principles into cooperative principles into legislation. So we spoke about the 7th principle. How many laws actually provide clear guidelines, rights and responsibilities for cooperatives to include sustainable development as an agenda item in their General Assembly, or for obliging cooperatives to report on their sustainability practices? I don't think many do. So we have to get our act together in lobbying with the government to modernize the cooperative legislation to speak to sustainable development. But on the other hand, ESG does provide. But now, the main question is, who do you pay to have small cooperatives sort of record their ESG score? My greatest worry is that in 15 years' time, Coca-Cola, with due respect to Coca-Cola, will emerge as the most sustainable enterprise in the world because it is able to score high, it is able to hire a band of experts on ESG or other, let's say, other metrics, and they're able to quantify how a Coca-Cola at a national level is able to take care of so many things. So that's a bit of a worry in terms of reporting, but the cooperative movement has to go back to their first principles, mutualize, and try to report in a way which is cost effective and so on. So, I mean, yeah, as you can see, I can go on about providing my opinions, but again, thank you for the question. I think it's an opportunity, but the cooperative legislation also needs to be adequately framed. And most importantly, I think it's the responsibility of cooperative movements, educators to inform students of today about the history of the cooperative movement and what it can bring as change. Because we feel that not many universities in the world, not many sets of curricula include cooperatives. Thus, we are robbing young people of knowing that cooperatives is an option.
Hello, Tess. I've seen that you have been in so many countries, including US and India and the Philippines. I would like to know, because you show that the cooperatives has a significant role in the society. But as far as I know, in Thailand, we don't have many activities from cooperatives. As far as you know, in Thailand, I'm not sure if you have experience in this country or not. Can you make a comparison between the cooperatives, businesses in different countries, like developing countries and developed country? What are the differences? And the thing is, I've heard so many activities comes from community enterprises. So I was wondering if there are any differences between these two types of enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Allow me to first respond to the second question, the difference between, say, community enterprises or social enterprises, social and solidarity enterprises, and cooperatives. So, in my view, cooperatives are the most defined, most articulated in law, and having a clear collective history. Whereas social enterprises or social economy and social and solidarity economy is a fairly new concept insofar as its articulation in law is concerned. Of course, I remember when I joined the ICA in 2010, when my colleagues, my friends asked me, what am I doing? What is that organization that I have joined? What does it do? I could not explain cooperatives to them. And I had to say, social enterprise. You see? So, on the one hand, they are all part of the same, let's say, pool, largely speaking, very broadly speaking. But cooperatives have a definite, they have a definition. They have a clear, threshold on what they are and what they are not. And that definition or that framework is self-identified by cooperatives through the ICA statement. So that is the first, I think cooperatives are a bit more definite, clearer in law, whereas community enterprises, social enterprises, the definitions may vary in different parts of the world, at least. The second thing is about the differences between cooperatives of, let me tell you, it's a very difficult question to answer in a short time, but what I have observed is cooperatives everywhere have begun with in the interest of agriculturists, agricultural labor, agricultural, the farmer. It begins there. Even the big cooperative banks of Germany, of the Netherlands, if you've heard of this bank called Rabobank, they all have been created in the interest of the farmer to begin with, and that is majority of the what I've observed, majority of the movement. But also they operate, irrespective of which country we're talking about, they operate for the basic needs of the people. So housing. So when after the World War in Austria, everything was destroyed. So the country relied on rebuilding Austria through cooperatives. Even today, I think 60% of Austria's housing is through cooperatives. In New York, where the prices are so high for real estate, you will see so many co-op housing. So wherever there is a basic need, we see cooperatives operating. What is the major difference that I have observed in the so-called developing economies and advanced economies is that more often than not, advanced economies, under legislation particularly, have forgotten what cooperatives are, despite their great history. So the laws in advanced economies, say Netherlands, at least they are companizing cooperatives because of many reasons, but companization of cooperatives is a real thing. And when you put companies and cooperatives in a same track to run the same race, I think that is not justified, because cooperatives are not running the race of a company whose end motive is to maximize the profit for the shareholder. There is no value judgment there. But cooperatives' end motive is something else. I'll give you a very short example that I always think of. If you're looking at a dairy farm, a dairy cooperative, a person contributing, so how it works, a dairy cooperative in India, let's say, and a wine cooperative in France or in Italy. Let's take the wine cooperative. You have a farm, you're growing grapes, you take the grapes, you go to the local cooperative and give the grapes. The cooperative has a plant that cleans the grapes, that processes it, bottles it, and markets it. In India, milk, same thing. I have 2 cows in my farm. I go give the milk. The milk is cleaned, pasteurized, bottled, and marketed. Now here, irrespective of how much milk I contribute, or irrespective of how much wine in that other example is contributed, the vote remains 1. I contribute 500 liters of milk, and another person contributes 2 liters of milk, my vote remains 1. Why is that, and why do I even accept that? Because I want that there is an accessible plant in the vicinity which is able to pasteurize the milk and bottle it and sell it, and the state is interested in that, and the market is interested in that, to maintain the price of the milk which is affordable for everyone. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, well, I see the time is up, so that's why I kind of got it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santosh Kumar, for such a comprehensive and insightful presentation.
Thank you.
ขอขอบพระคุณมิสเตอร์ซันโตสคุมมาเป็นอย่างสูงสำหรับการบรรยายที่เต็มไปด้วยองค์ความรู้อันเป็นประโยชน์ครับ
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a coffee break. Refreshments are provided right in front of this room, and the restroom are located to your left. Please return to this convention hall at 10:45 a.m. as we will resume with our next keynote session from China. Thank you and enjoy the break.
ช่วงเวลาถัดไปจะเป็นช่วงรับประทานอาหารว่างโดยทางทีมงานผู้จัดได้จัดเตรียมเครื่องดื่มและอาหารว่างไว้บริเวณด้านหน้าห้องประชุมและห้องน้ำจะอยู่ทางด้านซ้ายมือครับและขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านกลับเข้าห้องประชุมอีกครั้งในเวลา 10:45 น.ครับขอบคุณครับ
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We will now proceed to our second keynote address, focusing on the environmental, social, and governance aspects within supply and marketing cooperatives. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Dr. Zhu Wenqing, Associate Research Fellow from the Research Center of Management Academy of China Cooperatives.
ขอต้อนรับทุกท่านกลับเข้าสู่ห้องประชุมอีกครั้งครับลำดับถัดไปจะเป็นการบรรยายพิเศษที่จะมาสร้างความเข้าใจเกี่ยวกับแนวทางการปฏิบัติด้านสิ่งแวดล้อมสังคมและธรรมาภิบาลหรือ ESG ของสหกรณ์อุปทานและการตลาดแห่งสาธารณรัฐประชาชนจีนครับโดยดร. ชูเว่นฉิง Associate Research Fellow จาก Research Center of Management Academy of China Cooperative ครับ
Dr. Wenqing specializes in cooperative development, agricultural economics, and rural policy, and has contributed to numerous national research projects on cooperatives, agricultural markets, and rural development. She has also received multiple Liangxi Forestry Science and Technology Awards in recognition of her research contributions.
ดร. เว่นฉีผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการพัฒนาสหกรณ์เศรษฐศาสตร์การเกษตรและนโยบายการพัฒนาชนบทโดยมีบทบาทสำคัญในโครงการวิจัยระดับชาติหลายโครงการที่เกี่ยวข้องกับการพัฒนาสหกรณ์ตลาดสินค้าการเกษตรและการพัฒนาชนบทอีกทั้งยังได้รับรางวัลเรี่ยงฉี Forestry Science and Technology Award หลายรางวัลครับขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Thank you. Mr. President, dear colleagues, dear friends, today I'm deeply honored to stand before you. I'll share with you the ESG practice of China's supply and marketing cooperatives, bringing responsibility from reports to the fields. We are gathered here today because of a shared belief. A belief in fairness, mutual help, and sustainable development. More than 180 years ago, in the small town of Rochdale, England, 28 textile workers each put in £1 to start the world's first modern cooperative. Today, we meet in a world that is more complex and more fragile than ever. Climate change is harming our farmland. Conflicts are putting the global food supply at risk. In 2024, 673 million people were still hungry. The gap between the rich and the poor is growing in almost every country. According to the 2025 World Development Inequality Report, the richest 10% of the world's people control for about 75% of the wealth. In this situation, cooperatives, which are built on the union of people, not the union of capital, are given a new and important mission. In the last 10 years, ESG has moved from a side issue in finance to a mainstream topic. According to the UN Principles for Responsible Investment, by March 2025, about 5,300 organizations had signed up, managing over $130 trillion. Many big companies are now putting out detailed ESG reports and setting up ESG committees. 96% of the world's 250 largest companies now publish sustainability reports. But when we look beyond the buildings of New York, London, and Tokyo, we see a worrying gap. Hundreds of millions of small farmers, smallholder traders, and small producers around the world are almost never mentioned in the ESG conversation. ESG rating agencies worry about the carbon emissions of big listed companies, but they seldom ask where the empty pesticide bottles from thousands of villages end up. Big companies promise to reach net zero emissions, but they find it hard to answer a simple question. For the small farmers who are not part of the modern supply chain, who will help them to go green. When a large agribusiness records exact Scope 3 emissions in these reports, a small farmer in Africa may still be spreading fertilizer by hand, not because he doesn't care, but because no one has shown how to do a better way. China's supply and marketing cooperatives stand right on this fault line. We have companies that can talk to global markets and publish professional ESG reports. At the same time, we have a grassroots network deep in the countryside, serving millions of small farmers. This gives a special ability to act as a bridge between the ESG world and the small-scale producers. Today, China's supply and marketing cooperatives, as one of the world's largest cooperative organizations with 37,000 grassroots units, over 150,000 specialized farm cooperatives, and a network covering almost all counties, are exploring a key question. How can ESG take off this unit its suit, roll up its sleeves, and step out of the annual reports into the rice fields and farmyards? This is not a final answer, but a path we are building as we go. Today, I want to share with you our thoughts, our efforts, and our questions. Before I talk about our specific cases, I think it is important to step back and ask some more basic questions. These three questions have guided our thinking and shaped our strategy. The first question, environment. Does a cooperative's green duty stop at its own operations? For most companies, the E, environment, means using energy in their own factories, buying poor power and reducing office waste. All of this is good and correct. These problems in the fields are the real test of a cooperative's environment. This is a common challenge for agriculture in all countries, managing the waste from the widespread use of plastic film and pesticides in modern farming. Plastic film left in the soil causes long-term problems. If hundreds of millions of pesticide containers are not properly collected, the pollution of water and soil will be long-lasting and hard to reverse. If a cooperative serving many small farmers achieves carbon neutrality in its own office, but the soil and the water in its service area are getting worse, can we honestly say its E is good enough? My answer is cooperative's environment duty must go beyond its own wall and extend to every piece of land it serves and to how every member farms. The second question is social. Is a cooperative's social performance about doing good or creating fairness? Many companies see the S as donations, volunteer work, and building schools. These are good things, but we should respect them. But a cooperative's social value must go deeper. A cooperative was not born as the rich helping the poor, but as the weak joining together to change their own fate. The International Cooperative Alliance clearly says that the cooperatives achieve their value not through charity, but through organized self-help. This is our starting point for thinking about the social. So the main measure of a cooperative's S should be just as should not just be how much money was given or how many schools was built. It should ask a more basic question: how many poor people, how many poor small households have improved their lives by joining the cooperative? Have their incomes gone up? Can they now talk to the big market on better terms? Has their dignity as working people interested? If we will avoid this central question of member empowerment, a cooperative is no different from an ordinary business doing corporate social responsibility. The third question is governance. Is democratic governance a drag on efficiency or the best protection for ESG? Some people say that one person, one vote is less efficient than one share, one vote. In business, companies with faster decisions and more centralized power often grow faster. There is some truth in this, but it is only half the story. From an ESG viewpoint, a cooperative's democratic governance offers a special strength. It naturally stops short-term thinking and control by a few insiders. When decision-makers must answer to many members, not just to quarterly profits, they are more likely to make sustainable choices. You will not easily cut environmental spending to boost their year's profits. The stock market, because those who trust you are not investors who can sell their shares at any time, but members and their families who have lived on that land for generations. In many Chinese villages I have visited, the heads of grassroots cooperatives are elected by the villagers. Their reputation, their re-election, and their standing among neighbors all depend on whether they truly serve the members' interests. This kind of hard check from the village is stronger than any outside audit. These three questions, in short, means this: ESG is not an extra task for us. It is the modern expression of what a cooperative has always stood for. All the work of China's supply and marketing cooperatives in recent decades has, at its heart, been a response to these three questions. The three paths I will now share correspond to the E, S, and G. With these questions in mind, let us now talk about what we have done. The first and most basic layer is what we call redefining at the base. We need to solve a core problem is in the E. If going green raises costs and cuts income for small farmers, no good plan will ever work. In other words, you cannot ask farmers to protect the environment while making them pay the full price. So our first practical way is we deeply embedded green practices into the farming process. Through better technology and better organization, we help small farmers use less and produce more without increasing their burden or even while increasing their income. Case 1, 天鹅, making the white cotton greener. As we know, cotton is one of the world's oldest natural fibers, but growing it has long caused environmental problems. In China's northwestern cotton region, 39 million mu of land produce nearly 1/5 of the world's cotton. But traditional methods need a lot of manual labor and leave behind large amounts of plastic film, which harms the soil for years. For decades, farmers have faced a hard choice: use plastic film to protect yields, knowing it will pollute the soil for a long time, or give up the mulch and accept lower output. Today, technology offers a third way, a way that allows farmers to have both good output and a cleaner environment. 天鹅 was founded in 1946. For 80 years, this company, owned by the Shandong Supply and Marketing Cooperative, has been making top-quality cotton harvesting and processing machines. Its homemade cotton pickers can replace imported ones. They harvest over 94% of the cotton. One machine can do the work of 1,000 hand pickers, greatly shortening the harvest time and saving farmers 600 to 800 RMB per mu. More importantly, it can pick up the plastic film while it is still in good condition. This truly saves money, saves labor, and helps the environment, all at the same time. The environmental benefit is not an extra cost, it is built into the design of the machine. By making film recovery a natural part of the harvest, Tian'e has solved a long-standing problem. This is what redefining at the base means, making the right choice, the easy one. In May 2026, Tian'e has opened a smart farming service center in Chongshuke, offering full support from selling machines to providing repairs and advice. Through a company plus cooperative plus farmer model, farmers can use modern cotton pickers at a lower cost and share in the extra value from the cotton they sell. In March 2026, Tian'e has put out its first ESG report. In 2025, its total emissions were 4,692 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. All its waste was properly disposed of. Its green production systems are mature and strong. Tian'e's example shows environmental duty is not about thinking companies to do less, but to do the better. Better technology, higher efficiency, and lower energy use. With the right strategy, they all point in the same direction. If Tian'e solves the how to harvest problem, Huilong solves the how to grow and how to manage problem. Poor use of fertilizer and pesticide is not just bad for the environment, it is a waste of money. Every ton that runs off is a ton that the farmers paid for but did not benefit from. So cutting waste is a gain for both the environment and the farmer's pocket. Huilong's story starts with this problem. Huilong is the first listed company in the farm supply business within China's supply and marketing cooperative system. Its work is simple. It delivers fertilizer, pesticide, and seed to farmers and helps them to grow and sell their crops. But Huilong has turned this into a green closed loop, from delivery to the field to recycling back to the factory. Huilong's approach has two parts. First, bringing services to the fields. Huilong has set up 87 supply centers and over 4,200 shops in more than 20 farming provinces. It offers a 5 goods service model: good planting, good management, good harvesting, good processing, and good selling. In Anhui Province, Huilong uses 14 modern farming service centers to offer different services for different local conditions. Through expert advice on specific fertilizing and careful pesticide use, it has developed green service plans for local specialties such as the rice fish model in Liu'an or high-yield soybeans in Woyang. These have helped cut fertilizer and pesticide use while improving crop quality and safety. The second is getting packaging back from the fields. Huilong's subsidiary Xin'an started a scheme in Huangshan City where farmers can return empty pesticide bottles and bags to local shops for cash. By the end of June 2025, 450 collection points had been set up. Over 90% of the pesticides used were of the low residual or buyer-friendly kind. The recovery rate of empty packaging was over 95%, and all of it was properly disposed of, with 17.32 million RMB paid to farmers for returning packaging. Through good supply and thorough recovery, Huilong, with 20 years of experience and a deep network in the farm supply sector, has turned the last mile of green farm supplies into a closed loop. Tian'e and Huilong, one works through machinery, the other through farm supply, but they share the same basic logic. A cooperative's E cannot use based on banning and restricting, but on replacing and rewarding. With the right approach, environmental duty is not a burden on production, but a driver of it. Use better technology to replace old methods and use economic rewards to encourage green behavior. Only when we go in green becomes something farmers actively want, not something forced on them from outside, can we truly move forward on the path to sustainable development. Dear colleagues, technology alone is not enough. A huge agribusiness listed in New York can pay millions of dollars for expert reports, but a Chinese farmer with a few mu of land, a smallholder working on a hillside in Africa, or a fisherman on a river in Southeast Asia, they are completely off ESG's radar. The power of cooperatives to organize people shows its unique value here. A cooperative's job, in essence, is to bring together these scattered, separate small producers, not to take their place, but to give them the ability to act together. When thousands of small farmers are organized into a corporate network, they are no longer invisible dots in the system. They became a collective body that can talk, be measured, and keep improving. The third case is Zouping. Zouping, in the central plain of Shandong, is a major grain producing area, but the villages here are facing a loss of labor. Young people move to the cities for work, leaving behind the elderly and women. Land is split into tiny pieces and returns are low. This is a story we see in many rural areas of the developing country. The old model of smallholder farming based on family labor is becoming harder to sustain. A new model is needed. The Zouping Supply and Marketing Cooperative came up with a solution called the 1+5 land cooperation model. The 1 is the village, which organizes people. The 5 is the 5 partners working together: farmers, cooperatives, the supply and marketing cooperatives, and finance and insurance. The village leads the effort to bring together the scattered farmland. Farmers put their land use right into a land cooperative as shares. The supply and marketing cooperative provides all the farming services, from plowing and planting to harvesting, storage, and selling. Finance and insurance are also built into the chain. This model may sound simple, but it solves a basic problem. It turns the fragmented plots of thousands of households into large, workable fields. The 1+5 model is not just about combining land, it is about combining ability. Each of the 5 parts brings small importance. The village gives leadership and trust. The farmers give the land. The supply and marketing cooperative gives know-how and market links. Finance and insurance give money and risk protection. Each adds its strengths, creating a complete and functioning system. The story of Lou Zizhuang village brings this model to life. 3 years ago, the village started with a trio on 300 mu of land. In the first year, the corn yield doubled. The villagers who had been doubtful became believers. They decided to put the whole village's 1,100 mu of land under the model. After that, the supply and marketing cooperative built drying machines and with a daily capacity of 800 tons and a grain store for 15,000 tons. It also sent directly supply deals with 15 companies. An even bigger step was standardization. The cooperative wrote a standard operations manual for land trusteeship services, covering everything from how deep to plow to what temperature to dry at. It also offered training in their fields. Now the 1+5 model covers about 40,000 mu of land and has brought in 20 million renminbi in extra income for 37 village groups. What started as a small trio has grown into a regional movement. The success of Lozhang village has become a model for neighboring villages, creating a good cycle of trust, cooperation, and shared prosperity. This is how cooperative innovation spreads, not by orders from above, but by the example of visible success. Then we talk about what does organization brings. First, precision. Soil testing and fertilizer advice mean each piece of land gets exactly what it needs, cutting pollution from scattered farming. Bulk buying of supplies cuts out of the middleman and reduce costs. Second is skill. The grain drivers have cut post-harvest losses a lot, and cutting grain waste is itself a great way to reduce emissions. The third is income. Through unified buying and brand building, the supply and marketing cooperative helps good grain get a good price. A local saying has become popular. Farmers go out to work. The supply and the marketing cooperative works for the farmers. Zoping's experience shows us the organizing power of cooperatives is a unique source of grassroots ESG strengths. If Zoping shows the skill path of the northern plains, Xinyi in Guangdong shows the technology path of the southern mountains. Xinyi in the mountains of western Guangdong is China's biggest producer of Sanhua palms. Over 100,000 people work in this industry. The palm is a good source of income, but the mountain area has long had three big problems: hard to plant, hard to manage, and hard to transport. You know how hard is it? During harvest, farmers use motorcycles to carry the fruit down the winding mountain roads. Load by load, each trip can only carry about 100 jin. It takes a long time and is inefficient, and the fruit often gets damaged on the bumpy road. When it rains, the paths are slippery and dangerous for both people and fruit. No single farmer could change this alone. Building roads is too costly, and the cold chain investment is too high. Drones are far too expensive for one single household. The only answer was to organize the farmers. This is the logic behind the cooperative village pilot in Guangdong province. In 2024, Xinyi was chosen for this pilot. Grassroots cooperatives, village groups, and cooperative companies came together to set up a cooperative village company. This model is cooperative company plus village group plus farmer. The company organizes resources and provides services. For the first time, the scattered fruit farmers had collective power. The biggest change came in transport. The collective village company started a drone service. Farmers pick and put the fruit into baskets. The drone takes off in 10 seconds and brings the basket down in just 3 to 5 minutes. One drone can carry 6,000 jin per day, many times faster than manual transport. Now, Xinyi has brought together 80% of the drone operators in the area, serving nearly 200 villages. Once down the mountain, the fresh fruit goes to a center with smart sorting machines and a public cold chain network run by the supply and marketing cooperative. This provides a seamless link from pre-cooling to full cold chain transport. Fruit loss has been cut a lot, and the average selling price has gone up. Zhouping and Xinyi, one in the north and one in the south, follow the same logic. Cooperatives organize small farmers, turning scattered fields and households into larger, more efficient units. This is the core of the cooperative's social value. It goes beyond charity and good deeds. It gives small farmers the power of collective action through new ways of organizing. Skill makes standardization possible. Standardization cuts inputs and raises output. More importantly, small farmers are no longer alone in the market. They are now a group with organization, standards, and bargaining power. Their incomes have risen. Their products sell for more, and their dignity has grown. This is not giving handouts, it is giving power. This is not relief, it is creating fairness. In China's years-long battle against poverty, we traveled far and wide, visiting countless households to lift one person, one village, one region, and out of poverty. This journey gave us a deeper understanding of what poverty reduction truly means. It is far more than raising incomes. It is about systematically removing the root causes of poverty. By organizing small farmers, cooperatives get to the root of their weakness, being alone, powerless, and shut out of the market. This is the deep social contribution of cooperatives. This is the real heart of our social mission. The E and S are about what to do and why to do. The G, governance, must answer a more basic question. Why should you trust us? A common problem in ESG today is what I call a trust gap. Beautiful reports, careful data, and auditors' signatures, everything is in order. Yet public trust does not follow. Why? Because an ESG report is by nature a top-down statement. Headquarters set the rules, pass the down, and collect the data and produce a nice report. This process is not wrong in itself, but it lacks a key element, bottom-up checking from the grassroots. A trust gap cannot be fixed by more reports if the basic way of running things is not seen as fair and accountable. Then more reports, more data, and more audits may only make things worse. Trust is not made by documents. It is made by relationships and systems. The democratic governance of cooperatives offer a unique trust infrastructure. It does not rely on outside audits to guarantee that the data is true. It works through an inner logic. The members are the answers, as owners. Let me explain this pathway from three levels. Each shows a different way of building trust through technology, through rules, and through organization. Each is important, and together they form a strong and fair governance system. The first level is digital point, making governance real and tangible. The Longxiang Smart Governance digital platform in Tongliang, Chongqing offers a clever answer. The Tongliang District Supply and Marketing Cooperative built this platform. It holds data on over 120,000 households in the district. Villagers get points by taking part in activities like cleaning up their villages, doing volunteer work, and sorting their waste. These points can be used to buy daily goods, farm supplies, and even machine services online. The platform has processed over 400,000 point trades and sent more than 4 million renminbi worth of rewards to nearly 300 villages. But more important than the point is the change it brings to how the village is run. The points are not just for getting rewards, they are also used to pay good members and give them better services. The change has been from I have to do it to I want to do it. The villages have less litter and more people helping each other. It does not need expensive outside audits or complex rules. It only needs one simple principle. Gains from governance. It is no longer someone else's business, but our business. This is the heart of grassroots democratic participation. It does not need a deep understanding of company law or ESG. It only needs a simple, fair, and open system, rewarding good behavior and building community spirit. Yeah, if digital points are the soft touch of governance, the Serene Council system is the hard framework. The supply and marketing cooperatives have a system where the members' congress is the top body. Under it are the board of directors and the board of supervisors. This is called the Three Councils system. The members' congress has the final say. The board of directors runs the day-to-day work. The board of supervisors checks and balances. The practice of Luxian County in Sichuan brings this system from paper to real life. In 2020, Luxian called for improving the Three Councils system in new type grassroots cooperatives. It set 4 standards for grassroots cooperatives: having assets, having capable leaders, having a business, and having clear rules. 13 grassroots cooperatives in the county were the first to set up the Three Councils system, along with rules for major decisions. Now, every town in the county has a new type grassroots cooperative, but the real breakthrough in Luxian is how the Three Councils system is built into a closed circle of supervision. This gives 3 layers of checking: before an action, during an action, and after an action. First, before. All grassroots cooperatives in the county must hold members' meetings, board meetings, and supervisory meetings. All the members and the supervisory board can check the process. Members of the village 2 committees are elected to head the grassroots cooperatives. Townships recommend good current or retired officials to serve as head of the cooperatives. This makes sure the system is run by the right people. The second is during. Using the provincial supply and marketing cloud platform, county-level financial companies do the bookkeeping for the grassroots cooperatives. This now covers 80% of them and 100% of fully owned companies. All financial data is uploaded and watched in real time. This means financial management is unified across the county. The second is after. In 2024, Luxian spent 220,000 renminbi to hire outside auditors to check all its grassroots cooperatives and their companies. The audit covered financial records, decision-making rules, and the internal systems. The outside firms gave advice on how to fix problems, such as weak financial management or poor record keeping. This closed-loop system is a key feature. Supervision is not a one-off event. It is a continuous process covering the whole cycle of decision-making and action. This means mistakes can be found and fixed early, and lessons can be learned and built into the system. Accounts are open. Cooperative business is posted on the wall. Major issues are voted on. When the system really works, decisions to go back to their real purpose, serving the members, not the interests of a few. This is the institutional base of the cooperative's governance. It does not rely on outside auditors to prove it is doing the right thing. It is designed so that the members themselves become the watchers. The third level is village cooperative co-building, combining service ability and organizing power. China also has a special strength, the village self-governing body, and the cooperative can work together. This kind of teamwork does not happen by itself. It needs a good design and practical cooperation. But once it works, it creates a strong platform for rural development, making the most of the strengths of both systems. The village of Beidaihe in Qinhuangdao is a good example. This village, known for its art and culture, attracts many visitors each year, but some houses and public buildings were sitting empty. There was plenty of visitor traffic, but not much income for the village. In 2024, a village cooperative co-building pilot was started here. The supply and marketing cooperative put in money and management know-how. The village group put in assets and space. They set up a joint company together. This was not just a sign on the wall kind of cooperation. It was a deep link of assets, resources, and people. Over the next year, a number of unused spaces were brought back to life. An empty house was turned into a shop selling local specialties with products from across the province. At busy times, it gets over 200 visitors a day. An old courtyard was turned into a dining hall for the community, giving jobs to villagers and serving tourists. Empty land was used to build a smart greenhouse with a new separation management model. They also set up a three-rights separation management model. Ownership of assets stays with the village group. Management is done by a professional team, and the business is run by the market. The village two committees sit on the supervisory board. The project has already created jobs for 30 villagers. The cooperative's service ability and the village's organizing power has been combined into one, not just in name, but through real hands-on management of assets. The result is a stronger village economy, more income for villagers, and a sustainable economic base for rural governance. Digital points, the three council system, and village cooperative co-building. These three levels of governance innovation answers the core governance question of why trust you from three angles: technology, rules, and organization. A cooperative's governance does not rely on outside audits or endless compliance reports. It relies on everyday systems that are built into its life. So every member becomes a watcher. Every decision can be traced, and every account can stand up to questioning. When governance gives people a real sense of taking part and gaining something, it releases a great power for sustainable development. As we look back on these three paths, I want to share with you a key insight that runs through all of them. A cooperative's ESG does not start with a report. It starts with the fields. If we start with the report, we will design our activities just to fit the report's framework. If we start with the fields, we will design the report's framework to capture what is really happening in the fields. The mainstream ESG path in the world is top-down. Our cooperative-owned enterprise do need to put out ESG reports using the common language of the global market. Huilong has put out its third ESG report. Tian'e has also put out its third ESG report. This is telling it clearly, but the more essential ESG practice happens at the grassroots. China's supply and marketing cooperatives now cover almost all farming townships. Here, environmental improvement, social services, and democratic governance are not written into reports. They are done in the fields. The reports make the cooperatives ESG measurable and open to dialogue. The grassroots work makes sure ESG is not just for show or a nice decoration in the report. While sharing these experiences, I also want to be honest about the challenges we face. First, the standardization and the verifiability of ESG data across our whole system still needs a lot of improvement. The ability to collect data varies a lot among grassroots cooperatives. Turning field-based environmental work into data that can be measured and tracked is a problem we are still working on. Second, there are big differences in ESG awareness and capacity among grassroots cooperatives, from the developed East to the less developed West, from the plains to the mountains. Resources and abilities vary widely. Some grassroots cooperatives are weak, with few assets and little business drive. Their work on ESG is held back by a lack of resources. Third, how to turn ESG ideas into daily actions for every member, not just a strategic document for management, is still a major challenge for us. The existence of these challenges shows that the cooperative's ESG work is not a show for others. It is an ongoing, difficult, but firmly directed exploration. The work of China's supply and marketing cooperatives is far from finished. We still have many weak points to fix and many problems to solve. But the experience we have gained along the way may offer some food for thought for our fellow cooperators around the world. First, ESG must be rooted in the purpose and the values of the organization. The biggest difference between a cooperative and a normal business is that its main goal is not to make the most profit, but to serve the well-being of its members. All our ESG work is centered on our core mission of serving agriculture, rural areas, and farmers. This is why it gets a good response from the farmers. When we truly follow the cooperative principles, ESG becomes something we do from within, not a rule forced on us from outside. It is never an extra task for a cooperative. It is a modern expression of the cooperative's original purpose. Second, ESG needs a complete organizational ecology to support it. One problem with global ESG is that big companies can afford it, but small ones cannot. Setting up an ESG management system is too costly for small and medium-sized businesses. Our cooperative system, which is with its two-layer structure of cooperative-owned companies plus grassroots cooperatives, can pass down the top-level strategy all the way to the bottom, and also let feedback from the field quickly influence decisions. Third, ESG should be measurable, tellable, and passable. We encourage our companies to put out professional ESG reports and talk to the world with data. At the same time, we highly value the stories that are passed on by word of mouth at the grassroots level. Based on trust and community ties, a language that is both modern and down to earth can help ESG ideas take root in different cultures and places. And the last one, fourth, democratic governance is the firmest foundation for the cooperative's ESG. Only when the members truly take the lead with the E and the S, not become empty words. China's three council system, village cooperative, co-building, and digital points shows that when governance gives people a real sense of participation and gain, it releases a great power for sustainable development. These four lessons apply not only to cooperatives, but also show the direction for the wider development of ESG. They tell us that ESG needs to move away from its old reliance on big companies and standard reports and move toward more diverse, more inclusive, and more democratic practice. Cooperatives, with their unique governance structures and their deep roots in communities, as a natural testing ground for this exploration. Dear colleagues, the world today we face serious challenges: climate change, food security, conflict, and growing inequality. Neither the market nor the government alone can solve these problems. Cooperatives, this form of economic organization based on the union of people, must take on a special role. A famous Chinese poet of the Tang Dynasty, Li Shen, wrote in his poem, Pity the Farmer, who knows that every grain of rice on the plate comes from the hard toil. Today, our work on ESG is to protect the environment in which that grain is grown, to bring warmth to the hands that farm it, and to look after the villages that are full of life. China's supply and marketing cooperatives stand ready to work with our fellow cooperators from around the world. Let us bring ESG out of the reports and into the fields. Let's let responsibility take root and grow in the field. Let's hold high the flag of cooperatives on the long journey towards sustainable development. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chu Wanqing, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. If anyone has any question which they would like to ask, Dr. Wanqing will be with us during the lunch break.
ขอบพระคุณดร.ชูว่นฉิงเป็นอย่างสูงครับถ้าหากท่านใดมีข้อซักถามสามารถสอบถามดร.ว่นฉิงได้ในช่วงระหว่างรับประทานอาหารกลางวันครับ
At this time, I would kindly invite Dr. Chu Wanqing to remain on the stage for a moment to receive a token of appreciation from the head of the Department of Cooperatives, Faculty of Economics, เกษตรศาสตร์ University.
และในโอกาสนี้ขอเรียนเชิญดร.ซูว่นฉิงกรุณาประจำบนเวทีสักครู่เพื่อรับมอบของที่ระลึกจากหัวหน้าภาควิชาสหกรณ์คณะเศรษฐศาสตร์ครับ
May I respectfully invite Associate Professor Dr. Nakun Tharani Nitiyan, the head of the Department of Cooperatives, Faculty of Economics, to kindly come up on the stage to present token of appreciation to our two distinguished speakers and the representatives of the study delegation from Curtin University, Australia.
ในลำดับนี้ก็ผมขอเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.นคุลธรณีนิตยานหัวหน้าภาควิชาสหกรณ์คณะเศรษฐศาสตร์ให้เกียรติขึ้นบนเวทีเพื่อมอบของที่ระลึกให้แก่ท่านวิทยากรทั้งสองท่านและผู้แทนคณะศึกษาดูงานจากมหาวิทยาลัยเคอร์ตินประเทศออสเตรเลียครับ
Next, may I invite Mr. Santosh Kumar to come up on the stage to receive a token of appreciation from the Dean, from the head of the department.
ลำดับต่อไปขอเรียนเชิญมิสเตอร์ซันโตสคุมารับมอบของที่ระลึกจากหัวหน้าภาควิชาสหกรณ์ครับขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Next, may I invite Dr. Claire Low and Dr. Amalina Ibrahim from Curtin University, Australia, to come up on the stage to receive tokens of appreciation from the head of the department.
ลำดับถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญดร.แคโรและดร.มาริน่าบราฮิมจากมหาวิทยาลัยเคอร์ตินประเทศออสเตรเลียรับมอบของที่ระลึกจากหัวหน้าภาควิชาสหกรณ์ครับขอเรียนเชิญครับ
May I invite all recipients of the token appreciation to May I invite all recipients of the token of appreciation to remain on the stage for a group photograph.
ขอเรียนเชิญผู้ได้รับของมอบที่ระลึกทุกท่านกรุณาร่วมถ่ายภาพเป็นที่ระลึกกันบนเวทีขอเรียนเชิญครับ
May I kindly invite Associate Professor Dr. Gulapa Kundilo, Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Kasetsat University, to come up on the stage for a commemorative photograph.
และในโอกาสนี้ก็ผมขอเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดรกุลภาคุณดิลกท่านคณบดีคณะเศรษฐศาสตร์ให้เกียรติขึ้นบนเวทีเพื่อร่วมถ่ายภาพที่ระลึกขอเรียนเชิญครับ
Next, may I invite the representatives from the following organizations to come forward to the front of the stage for a group photograph.
ลำดับต่อไปขอเรียนเชิญผู้แทนจากหน่วยงานต่างๆบนเวทีผู้ร่วมถ่ายภาพเป็นที่ระลึกพร้อมกันดังต่อไปนี้ครับ
The Cooperative League of Thailand,
สันนิบาตสหกรณ์แห่งประเทศไทย
the Federation of Savings and Credit Cooperatives of Thailand Limited,
ชุมนุมสหกรณ์ออมทรัพย์แห่งประเทศไทยจำกัดครับ
the Credit Union League of Thailand Limited,
ชุมนุมสหกรณ์เครดิตยูเนียนแห่งประเทศไทยจำกัด
the Consumer Cooperative Federation of Thailand Limited,
ชุมนุมร้านสหกรณ์แห่งประเทศไทยจำกัด
the Cooperative Economic Society of Thailand,
สมาคมเศรษฐศาสตร์สหกรณ์แห่งประเทศไทย
the Cooperative Economic Institute,
สถาบันวิชาการด้านสหกรณ์
Quad Riga Private Equity Co Limited,
บริษัท Quadica Private Equity จำกัด
and Special Advisory of the Department of Cooperatives, please come forward.
และผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิภาควิชาสหกรณ์ขอเรียนเชิญครับ
May I invite everyone on the stage to come down facing the screen to take a group photo with every participant here.
ลำดับต่อไปขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านบนเวทีให้เกียรติร่วมถ่ายภาพหมู่เป็นที่ระลึกกับผู้เข้าร่วมงานทุกท่านด้านล่างครับโดยหันหน้าไปทางเวทีขอเรียนเชิญครับ
And that concludes the morning session of today's conference. Next, may I kindly invite all participants to complete the conference satisfaction survey by scanning the QR code provided on the table. Thank you so much for your kind cooperation. For the next part, we will now break for lunch, which will be served in the designated room indicated on the coupon until 1 p.m.
เสร็จสิ้นลงแล้วนะครับสำหรับกิจกรรมในภาคเช้านี้ลำดับต่อไปขอความกรุณาผู้เข้าร่วมประชุมทุกท่านร่วมตอบแบบสอบถามประเมินความพึงพอใจต่อการจัดประชุมวิชาการในครั้งนี้โดยการสแกน QR Code ที่จัดไว้บนโต๊ะของท่านครับสำหรับช่วงถัดไปจะเป็นการพักรับประทานอาหารกลางวันตามที่ระบุไว้ในคูปองจนถึงเวลา 13 นาฬิกาครับ
This afternoon program will commence at 1 p.m. with parallel paper presentation session in 2 rooms. The English paper presentation will take place in room EC5205. The Thai paper presentation will take place in room EC5303. The conference is expected to conclude at approximately 4 p.m.
และสำหรับการดำเนินงานในช่วงบ่ายจะเริ่มขึ้นในเวลา 13 นาฬิกาโดยจะเป็นการแยกห้องนำเสนอตามห้องย่อยจำนวน 2 ห้องห้องนำเสนอบทความภาษาอังกฤษณห้อง EC 5205และห้องนำเสนอบทความเป็นภาษาไทยณห้อง EC 5303เพื่อนำเสนอบทความทางวิชาการและการประชุมจะแล้วเสร็จในเวลา 16 นาฬิกาครับ
Thank you very much and please enjoy your lunch.
ขอขอบพระคุณทุกท่านเป็นอย่างสูงครับและขอให้ทุกท่านเพลิดเพลินกับอาหารกลางวันสวัสดีครับ